Hey guys, today is April 17th, 2025, and I have a decode that I've been waiting to share with you guys for a long time. I've been looking at this time frame a long time ago, in 2024 actually, maybe a year ago. And I'm talking about Easter, and I'm also adding April 26th, and April 26th is Melania Trump's birthday. I'm going to talk about that date a little bit and why that date's also important. But most of my decodes focus on Easter and the connections I have with Trump. And this also, something might happen related to all the plane crashes that we had recently. Trump cutting the Air Force One cake. This could definitely connect to 420, some type of event. So, anyways, I want to start off talking about the movie Donnie Darko, released in 1988. Troubled teenager Donnie Darko sleepwalks outside, led by a mysterious voice. Once outside, he meets a figure named Frank in a monstrous rabbit costume. Frank tells Donnie that the world will end in precisely 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, and 12 seconds. Donnie wakes up the next morning on the green of a local golf course and returns home to discover a jet engine has crashed into his bedroom. So this movie has a lot to do with a plane crash. And just because there's a rabbit, a guy in a rabbit costume, does not necessarily mean pertains or relates to Easter, but I'm going to show you something that a huge connection to Donnie Darko and Easter. But a lot of people have already made the connection with Donald Trump, Donnie Darko, and he's wearing the Triumph t-shirt. You can see the letters Trump in the t-shirt in Triumph. So Donnie Darko also equals 110. This year, Easter is on the 110th day of the year. Rabbit also equals 110, but it also equals 25. We're in the year 2025, and 47, Trump being the 47th president. So I'm going to show you two separate clips from SNL, Saturday Night Live, with Trump and the Easter connection.
Excuse me, I was told we were doing Easter wishes and I was not given my turn. This is very, very unfair. Another example of how whites are being treated horribly in this country.
All right, fine, go ahead.
Easter is time for basket, it's time for bunny, and frankly, bonnet, okay? And let's not forget...
Frankly, bonnet, okay. He says the rabbit's name that was in Donnie Darko, his name was Frank. He actually says frankly twice. That right there isn't a huge deal. But look at this next clip where they make a direct connection with Donnie Darko and Easter with Trump speaking. Alec Baldwin, who plays Trump here.
Mr. President, are you worried that your tariffs are ruining our economy and your immigration policies have destroyed America's standing in the world?
So, the last question they show in this 6.5 minute clip is they talk about the tariffs, which is going on right now, right before Easter. Then, the segment right after that question.
Okay. And one more thing. Does anyone else see this rabbit, okay? I'm not the only one who sees that rabbit, right? And it's wearing glasses, is that real? Okay. I think this might be a Donnie Darko situation. Fantastic movie, by the way. Love Jake Gyllenhaal.
He said it right there. He made the direct connection. They're showing the Easter Bunny. This may be a Donnie Darko situation. The rabbit was wearing glasses. And, the rabbit wearing glasses with Trump and Melania out here. So in the movie Donnie Darko, Frank the Rabbit, a figure of dark influence and time travel, is often depicted wearing sunglasses. The glasses are a key visual element associated with Frank and enhancing his unsettling and enigmatic presence. Now in iPet Go 2, they have a white rabbit with the hole in its ear, the upper right ear, right? And that's where Trump was supposedly shot, or so they say, right? In the upper right ear. And this character in iPet Go 2 has been said to represent Trump, you know. The only character with the interesting haircut and his hands sitting at a triangle just like Trump sits. Now look at this news headline. Turkey set to export 420 million eggs to the U.S. amid current shortage nationwide, right? We have an egg shortage this year, and they're exporting 420 million. And Easter is on 420.
The current egg shortage has businesses looking for supply beyond our borders. Turkey is set to export 420 million eggs to the United States this year. Egg producers in the country say that's the most ever. But experts warn the increase in egg imports won't make much of a dent in the shortage in the U.S. The American Farm Bureau Federation says Turkey is the only country the United States imports eggs from.
So the only country that the U.S. imports eggs from is Turkey, 420 million. Can't make this up, right? So of course on Easter, the resurrection of Christ is celebrated, right? And that equals 110, just like this year, Easter is on the 110th day of the year. I also find it interesting that Trump's mother's name is Mary, just like Jesus' mother's name. And his dad's middle name is Christ. So of course you got the Christ connection with Easter and Trump as well. So now there are articles and texts saying that the name Easter comes from the word Ishtar, which is the god of love, war, and fertility, queen of heaven, or otherwise known as Inanna. But look what Ishtar equals in Latin, 288. And look at how old Trump will be on 420 Easter, 28800 days old, 288, matching the gematria of Ishtar. Even goddess Ishtar equals 888 in Sumerian. Donald J. Trump equals 888. And the 8-pointed star is associated with Ishtar, also known as the Star of Ishtar or the Star of Venus. Now if we go back 88 Venus or Venusian years prior to Easter, isn't it interesting that the Capitol was bombed? March 1st, 1971. Now, if you go back 16 Venus years prior to this coming Easter, it lands on the day that Trump announced his run for presidency. And of course, 16 is 8 plus 8. So he announced his run in 616, and he's the 45th, 47th president, right? And that is the 616th prime number. So Trump was the 45th president. 45 times 45 is 2025, in which he's president once again in 2025. But if you also take that 45 plus 45, it equals 90. And Easter is exactly 90 days after he was inaugurated in 2025. Not only that, his initials D and T equal 4 and 20, right? His initials connect to 420. Now here's an image from the song Lavender, a video by Snoop Dogg, and it was a mock killing of Trump, and you can see that right before or after, I don't remember, but anyways, Trump is smoking a joint, and of course we relate to marijuana and all that to 420, right? And something he says in his lyrics, a lyric from Lavender, it says, "Now it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun." Again, another connection. 420, rabbit got the gun, you know. Now Trump was dressed as a clown. Right at the beginning, they show this clown clock. The clown clock is at 420, with 4 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in the video. Now, I just pointed out the hole in the white rabbit's ear, just like how Trump was shot in the upper right ear. And look below. These are faceless heads, but they also look like Easter eggs, right? So the film I, Pet Goat 2, released on June 24th, 2024, to 420 will be 669 weeks. It's just another inversion of a 666, right? You can flip the 6 or 9 upside down. I find it quite interesting. It's also exactly 669 months after the moon landing. 669 from I, Pet Goat 2, 669 from the moon landing. So back on October 5th, 2017, Trump said, "I don't know, maybe it's the calm before the storm." And calm before the storm equals 198, 81, 288, and 99. This has connected to several cyclones and hurricanes in the past with these numbers, the calm before the storm. Well, for instance, Cyclone Kenneth made landfall 81 weeks exactly after he said calm before the storm. Cyclone Lisa made landfall exactly 288 weeks, matching the 288 in reverse, calm before the storm, after his calm before the storm statement. Hurricane Dorian formed exactly 99 weeks after his calm before the storm statement. And Hurricane Beryl made its second landfall exactly 81 months after his calm before the storm statement. So U.S. President Donald Trump also equals 288 and 99, just like the calm before the storm. And just like 288 in Ishtar, as I said, Trump will be 28800 days old on Easter, but he will also be 99 months or 3012 days old. You know, we had 312 votes for being elected the president, right? 99 months, the reverse reduction cipher, calm before the storm. And it will be 81 days since the plane helicopter collided, you know, just after his inauguration. The American Eagle colliding with the Black Hawk helicopter. So on Trump's inauguration day, January 20th, he cuts an Air Force One plane cake with a sword. So, and what followed was a barrage of plane incidents, and we had a couple just before that as well, but no coincidence that we had a plane crash in the United States 9 days and 11 days after this happened. But that one on January 29th, the collision between the Black Hawk helicopter and the American Eagle jet, that was on the day that William McKinley was born, the 25th president. So he was assassinated in the city of Buffalo. Buffalo was founded on April 20th, and the year that Skull and Bones was founded. And so we had a lot of plane incidents connecting to presidents. Besides the January 29th, on William McKinley's birthday, we previously had the one on December 29th, 2024, the day that Jimmy Carter died in Plains, Georgia, the one that happened in South Korea. But also on January 29th, that plane crash, it was trying to land at Reagan Airport coming from Eisenhower Airport. And the one that happened 2 days later, the medical flight, crashed near Roosevelt Mall at Roosevelt Boulevard. And then we had one 2 days later at Bush Airport. You know, there's only 8 airports in the United States named after U.S. presidents. So as I said, Carter died the same day as a plane crash in Plains, Georgia, but that flight number was 2216. Now in the next slide, I'm going to show you how this connects to Snoop Dogg, the guy that's trying to kill Trump in his video. So this date, 420, is exactly 3 months, 22 days after Carter died. Skull and Bones number, right? 420 also has 255 days remaining in the year. Well, the number 322 is the 255th composite number, so it relates. Now here's the connection with Snoop Dogg. From Snoop Dogg's birth to 420 is equal to the 2216th prime number. The same flight number that crashed the day that Carter died. And we also see last year Snoop Dogg was carrying the Olympic torch. And they also changed the design of it. It looks like a lit joint. So 420 this year is also 23 years, 222 days, and date included after 9/11. The Skull and Bones number. I always look at it as 1, 3, multiple 2s in any order because I've been seeing that type of connection throughout the years. Just like Bin Laden's birthday to 9/11. 2-3, 2 weeks, 2 days. Same number, 2-3, 222, 2-3, 222. The movie Airplane premiered to that plane crash that happened the day that Carter died. 2-3, 2 weeks, 2 days. So as I said, 420 leaves 255 days remaining in the year, which relates to the number 322. Well, on May 16, 1987, Air Force One took its first flight. And exactly 3 months after that happened, Flight 255 crashed at Metro Detroit, which is actually close to my home, about just like 15-minute drive. But anyways, it crashed at 8:46 p.m. The plane during 9/11 hit the Twin Towers, Flight 11 at 8:46 a.m. So this plane crash had 156 fatalities. The number 9/11 is 156 prime, which is very interesting. But as I said, Flight 255 crashed 3 months after the first Air Force One flight happened. Now, 420 is exactly 3 months after Trump cut the Air Force One cake with a sword. And there's 255 days remaining in the year. I mean, that is very interesting to me. Besides what I'm about to show you, I got another huge connection with Air Force One and 420. But before I get to that, I just want to say that on 8/9/2024, exactly 255 days before a day leaving 255 days remaining in the year, the end date included, Trump's plane had mechanical issues. So here's the big Air Force One connection. Multiple parts here. Here's the first part. So Trump was shot on Harrison Ford's birthday. And he, of course, was the main actor in the movie Air Force One. He was the president. And, his plane was hijacked. And so this date when Trump was shot was 9 months, 7 days apart from 420. Plane crash equals 97. Now, look at this. Trump was shot by a person that was born on 9/20/03. Well, that number is equal to the 8,888th prime. Well, we know Trump connects to the number 88. Trump equals 88 in the alphabetical order in gematria. Now, you combine that with this. Air Force One, the release date to this year in Easter, 420. Exactly 10,131 days. Look what the composite number is. 8,888. The composite number of 10,131. From the day the Air Force One released. The combinations of all the connections that I just showed you, Trump, Air Force One, all the other things related to Ishtar, his birthday, it's overwhelming to me. That's why I've been waiting to show you guys this date. I don't know. We're going to have to see what happens, but I might have cracked the code on something happening related to the things that I've just talked about. Well, back in 2018, here's another interesting connection. Trump Tower catches on fire on 4/7, long before he became the 47th president in 2018. And the time difference to that, 4/20, is 7 years, 13 days. Harrison Ford's birthday, and of course, the date he was shot, 7/13. Now here's a little clip I'm going to show you relating to Trump being connected to Batman.
Donald Trump is apparently Batman. Yes, that's what he told a 9-year-old boy from Iowa who rode on his helicopter this weekend at the Iowa State Fair.
Okay, so they're connecting Trump to Batman. He said he was Batman to a little boy in a helicopter. You know, the whole thing was probably staged, but, you know, they put it out in the news media, so it's likely important, and it may be related to some type of event on 4/20 as well. So Adam West died in 2017, shortly after Trump was inaugurated as the 45th president. He died at the age of 88. Trump equals 88. But he died exactly 4 months, 20 days after Trump was inaugurated. That's why I'm wondering if something relating to 4/20 and Trump being called Batman. But I have more, because on the date 4/20, 2017, the first time that Trump became president, Cuba Gooding Sr. died. He's the father of Cuba Gooding Jr., but he was the lead singer in this band called The Main Ingredient, and their biggest hit was called Everybody Plays the Fool. And now Batman's nemesis is the Joker, and they use the soundtrack Everybody Plays the Fool. And he died on 4/20. And Adam West died 4 months and 20 days after Trump was inaugurated. So I'm wondering if it somehow ties into Easter as well. Because, now look at this, Val Kilmer just died on April Fool's Day, 4/1. And if you take this from the time that Cuba Gooding Sr. died, you know, he had the song Everybody Plays the Fool and the movie The Joker. And look at the time difference, 2,903 days, the 420th prime. So that is crazy. Now that we're on the Batman topic, I want to show you once again this clip from The Dark Knight. Number 86 catches the ball. You got section 322, and you see that section 322 explodes. Now, number 86, you know, that guy carrying that football is a real football player. His name is Hines Ward, and he was born on March 8th. Well, 4/20 is exactly 322 days before his birthday. We saw the 322 in that stadium explode. And now Easter is 322 days before his birthday. Now I'm going to review what I talked about in one of my other videos because it pertains to this in plane crashes. So, John Kerry, well, he's married to Teresa Hines. And Teresa Hines used to be married to John Hines. John Hines died in a plane crash. Well, Hines Ward is carrying the ball. His name is spelt different, but sounds the same. And they're playing in Hines Field. So he's wearing the number 86. In that plane crash where Carter died, Teresa Hines was exactly 86 years and 86 days, and date included, old. 86. And you got a president that dies the same day as a plane crash. From Teresa Hines' birthday. He's wearing the number 86. So even going back before the movie was created, there was a huge plane crash after 9/11. Most people maybe don't even remember because it's overshadowed by the 9/11 event. But in New York City, there was a plane crash on November 12th with 265 fatalities. Well, that happened exactly 86 days after Heinz Field opened. 86 in Heinz Field. And this was exactly 3,022 weeks and 2 days after John Kerry was born. So maybe they're connecting a plane crash, skull and bones, with John Kerry because he was born in 43 and plane crash equals 43. So South Korea's deadliest plane crash before the one that just happened the day that Carter died was interestingly on 8/6 in 1997. You can see there's a skull and bones connection with John Kerry's birthday as well in prime numbers. So we had this plane crash with the 2,223rd prime from John Kerry. What if you reverse it? 3,222nd prime. Guess where it lands on? Easter. So you have the big 322 connection once again to John Kerry's birthday. Kerry married to Teresa Hines. That football game, The Dark Knight Rises, played in Heinz Field. And this day is 322 days before Heinz Ward's birthday. I'm telling you, it's a very high watch date, Easter. Not only that, The Dark Knight Rises premiered in New York City on July 16, 2012. Look how many weeks it is with the end date included. 666 weeks. So, yeah, without the end date included, it's 421. Without the end date included, it's 421 connecting to John Kerry. So, I guess we could look at 421 as well, other than Easter. Here's something I wanted to add because I found some more info on this. I heard Rambo talking about the upside down Delta plane relating to the tarot card, the hangman card, and the connection with Michael Jordan. We had this incident where Delta, crashed. It crashed upside down. I've never seen anything like this, and it happened on Jordan's 62nd birthday, And airplane crash is equal to 62. Well, Jordan also goes by the name of Air Jordan, which sounds like a flight, right? Air Jordan. And also in Batman, you had the upside down plane. You had a plane crash, and The Dark Knight Rises, upside down plane. But what is 420? 420 is now, it's 62 years, 62 days after Jordan was born. So, airplane crash equals 62. But now look at this. The original Air Jordan 1 was released to the public on April 1st, 1985. Now, April 1st, 1985 to 4/20/2025. 480 months, 19 days. Are you seeing this? If you take out the 0, because you don't have to count zeros in numerology, you're left with 4819. The exact same flight, Delta flight 4819, that crashed upside down on Jordan's birthday. And now you have this connection to the Air Jordans. The 4819. This happened on the 62nd birthday. Airplane crash equals 62. He's also known as Air Jordan. And now we're 62 years and 62 days after Jordan was born. So that's all the connections I got for Easter. But to me, it's just the evidence is overwhelming. The amount of connections, pointing to some type of event leading to a possible plane crash, or who knows, maybe it's something else. But we'll have to see. It's only a few days away, but I've been waiting to make this video for a long time. Of course, I didn't have a lot of this information until the last couple months. So I'm glad that I actually waited till now. But I want to talk about April 26th because that is Melania's birthday. And why is that important? Because on Melania's 55th birthday, April 26th, the total ages of Donald Trump, Melania, and all their children will equal 314. That's the number of pi. But you know why that's also interesting? Because this was on the same day that South Korean president sang American Pie at the White House with Biden. Same day, 2 years ago, April 26th. And now you have, the Trump family ages relating to the number pi. And this song was all about a plane crash, American Pie. So a method that I like to use a lot is reversing the dates. So this president that sang American Pie was put into office on May 10th, 2022. Now, if you reverse the dates, put the May 10th, 2025 and put the 4/26, 2022, well, look what you're left with. You're left with pi, 3 years, 14 days. And this is, like I said, the anniversary that he said American Pie. Trump's family equals 314. Now, in lunar phases in sidereal months, since Trump was inaugurated, well, it's pi, 3 months, 14 days. Another connection. So back in 2016, Trump was also announced as the winner of the election on the 314th day. So the election was on November 8th, but he was announced as the winner overnight, sometime in the early morning hours. Now look at Trump's 2 sons. They're born 314 weeks apart. Now, in addition to what I just showed you, this makes it very, very interesting, this date, April 26th, because back in 2016 on September 20th, there was a radio transmission on AM 1630 that repeated the phrase, Trump April 26, Trump April 26, and it went on for hours. I mean, this says the loop lasted several hours. But this says Trump will go 26. So 2 messages were put out. I remember that. Trump will go was the first thing that I heard. And then it was said that, no, that's incorrect, that they're saying Trump April 26. And you can clearly hear April 26. It does sound a little bit like will go 26. Or did they purposely put that out there because there's a reason Trump will go 26, But anyways, here is the radio transmission.
Trump April 26, Trump April 26, Trump April 26, Trump April 26, Trump April 26.
Just repeating, right? Now look at this. As I said, this happened September 20th, 2016. To April 26, you have, if you take out the 0, because you don't have to count zeros, you have 314. The number of pi, 3,140 days. Another pi connection. So yeah, that's all the slides that I have for this video. Really, really compelling connections, I think, that I have found here. So, well, we're going to have to wait and see and what actually happens, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Take care.